Good morning, people. Good morning. This is Saturday, September 16th, 2023. Here we are in Grump. I'm going to open the window because it's getting a little bit light enough outside that we can let some of the light from outside come in here because otherwise it's getting dark. But again, here we are at Department of Career Services, where we have a simple goal to help you get from where you are to someplace better. From point A to point B, from Someday Isle to Successlandia. And I know we're starting a little bit late at 6:15. The weather forecast, it's currently 68. The high today is going to be 95. So the swing is getting shorter, smaller. But time is racing, so let's get started. Again, the purpose of the podcast is to help you get from where you are to someplace better, upward trajectory in your life on life's journey. And yesterday was a very big day all the way around. Number one, we had the wraparound event where we got about 17 people signed up, 6 people, it was about 6 people had UAs, not as many as we thought, but it was a good start. More important than that, we had a good meeting afterwards with the staff from Mind Body, and figuring out how we go forward from here in an efficient manner. So we build upon what we started with. That's number one. Number two, there was a nice article in yesterday's newspaper, Prompt Valley Times, which is part of the Review Journal. Let's come back here. Local churches band together to help homeless residents. Okay, so that was good, going along with the wraparound event, and that hopefully will help keep the momentum going with the churches, the local churches, so we can build upon that to provide even more services for those who need it most, and have the churches solve the problem which the county isn't able to do, isn't designed to do, etc. And then the third thing yesterday was I got asked to talk at a church service, Bible study service with the Full Armor of God Church. And today I'm going to read what I said. What a bevy, sup. So I'm going to read much of what I wrote, or what I said last night, off the screen. Yeah, I can do that. Even though down in the description down below is a truncated version because I only had 5,000 characters that I could add in. So, yes, that's what I will do. So when we get down to it, but when we get around to it, no round to it's. Okay, yeah, that's what I'll do. Let's see, the way our podcast work is it's a 5-part, 5-step podcast. 3 we do live, 2 we do after. So we prepare, we have an attitude of gratitude, review yesterday, plan for today, and then project today into the future. Project today, what we're going to do today, and then live it. So as we prepare, this is the breathing exercise. We use the Dr. Huberman from Stanford, double intake through the nose, exhale through the mouth, letting the air fall out using our stomach to get all of the air out of our lungs, and then inhale using our stomach to fill our lungs, and then a last other surge from our chest cavity to get our lungs completely filled. So it looks like this. And if you do that, you will feel it. Bingo. Okay. Attitude of gratitude. So write down in your book. We need to have our book, our coffee, and our pen. Okay, who stole my pen? I'm so happy and grateful now that blank. So this is a 3-step technique. First, we write, I'm so happy and grateful now that. Then we turn it into a question. What am I so happy and grateful for now? Like now. And then after we ask the question, we turn our attention inward into our brain and we observe the things that we're happy and grateful for. And then we write them down. You can actually see them, and those will release neurochemicals, neurotransmitters, and hormones, chemicals into our system, like serotonin, like oxytocin, like dopamine, that will make us feel good. Maybe even endorphins if we get a little chuckle out of it. Okay, step 3 would be to plan the day. Step 4, review yesterday, and then we go offline. Step 4, review the day. Step 5 is to project the day. What am I planning to happen today? Project it, and then go do it. So like you're a golfer, you picture the shot before you take the shot. Basketball player, you picture the shot before you take the shot, etc. And then you just repeat what you had just done. But without further ado, let me read what I wrote yesterday, what I said yesterday. Earlier today, Pastor Ruben asked me, do you believe in free speech? Yeah, good, because you're giving one tonight, and I'm eternally grateful. Disclaimer, I'm not a pastor, I'm just a plain blunt man that provides housing, clothing, food, hygiene, jobs, etc. for those most in need. And much of what I have to say is directly from Greg Boyle, head of Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles, the largest gang intervention program in the US, which is to say the world, and our mothership, along with our Jesuit, Max Oliva. The Rev Martin Luther King said, this is not the place you come to, it's the place you go from. That is, we don't go to church, we go from church, hopefully determined to please God through our life. We want God's dream come true, which is, as Jesus says in John 17, that we may be one, where there is no us and them, it's just us. And this is all that God longs for. And so, of course, we want to share this God who loves us without measure and without regret, this God who can't take his eyes off us, this God who longs to just cherish us, this God who protects us from nothing and sustains us in everything. What do we do when we go from here? We want to be in the world who this God is, compassionate, loving, and kind. That's why we're here. It's about obliterating the illusion that we are separate. We're all born into the world wanting the same things. So how do we find our connection with each other, which is the only thing God wants? It's the only form of adoration that God has any interest in. For the past 16 years, including 11,000 hours teaching prisons and jail, I've spent most of my time around people who are in prison or jail or recently released. So I'm not really sure what qualifies me to be speaking here today. How do we help? Imagine a circle of compassion, and all of us are inside of that circle. We are called to expand that circle because God wants us to be one. So nobody is standing outside the circle. And if you think about it, what did Jesus do? Spend all his time with the Pharisees and Sadducees in the temples? No, he went out to the margins, out to the people, And so, like Jesus, that we may be one, we must go to the margins to love the poor and the powerless and the voiceless, because that's the only way they'll get erased. We must go to the margins to allow our hearts to be altered by the people at the margins, to cherish those whose burdens are more than they can bear. We must go to the margins to be tender with the easily despised and the readily left out, to uplift those whose dignity has been denied. We must go to the margins to stand firmly with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop, to stand with the disposable so that the day will come when we stop throwing people away. We must go to the margins with love because we know that systems change when people change, and people change when they are cherished. And so we need to stand with them and to allow our hearts to be reached and altered. Trust me, the world will accuse you of wasting your time. But the prophet Jeremiah writes, "For in this place which you say it is a waste, there will be heard again the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voices of those who sing." What is it like at the margins? It's hard, really, really, really hard, and usually thankless. We don't deal with high-class problems like family reunification or one's relationship with God. We're down in the trenches, often with people who have no family, no resources, no skills, no work history. People who are in true survival mode, with those who may or may not believe that they are committed to a better life. People who believe that God either abandoned them or is punishing them. There's lots of guilt and remorse. Because even though everyone wants a better life and everyone says they're willing to change to obtain it, they don't know what that looks like. And it's not about morality, because morality has never kept us moral. It's only kept us separated from each other. Going to the margins is about taking seriously what Jesus took seriously: inclusion, nonviolence, unconditional loving kindness, and compassionate acceptance. And then I told a story about Daniel, the veteran, combat vet, who came to us a few weeks ago, who was a 50 cal gunner on a Humvee that was hit by an IED. And as the Humvee flipped over, his face smashed into the shield, and he had brain damage, knocked out his teeth, crushed the front of his face, and then he was with us almost 24/7. Except one day after church, one evening, he asked to go to the emergency room. We took him, and I had a hunch when I came back to look in his room, and we found about 20 large bottles of hand sanitizer that were empty. So like many veterans, he had been drinking hand sanitizer. The next morning, the experts at the hospital told us to take him immediately to the VA, where the experts could help him. And against my better judgment, we took off directly there, brought him down there, walked him into the room, and told him we'd be waiting for him when his inpatient program was over. Monday, his brother called me to tell me they found his dead body on the streets of Las Vegas. I believe had he remained, he would still be alive today, had I not taken him to the VA. Almost everyone we work with has a similar story. 96% of people leave prison alive. They come back to our communities more damaged and outside the circle. They try to make a go of it with worn out tools, or more often their bare hands. We go to the margins because we can't write such people off. What are we called to do? To follow Jesus' example and go to the margins to discover our true and loving self, to allow love to live through us because love never stops loving. The poet Rumi writes, "In the house of the world, if the house of the world is dark, then love will find a way to make windows to see beyond the places where we get stuck, the places from which we seek to divide. Love will always find a way to make windows." We need to not just settle for pointing things out, but to pointing the way. We need to not just settle for shaking our fist, but rolling up our sleeves. We believe in a God of second chances, but we offer very few of them. We believe in the infinite mercy of God, but we can be quite stingy. We believe in a God who includes everyone, but we ostracize and cut off, and we say, "You don't belong to us." And yet the truth is that God, who loves us without measure and without regret, tells us that everyone is unshakably good, and we belong to each other, and we need to ask each other's names and to see each other as nobly born. We go from here to be in the world who God is, compassionate, loving, and kind. And we go from here to discover our true and loving selves and to allow love to live through us, because love never stops loving. We are called to help those who need it most. Jesus says, "May you be one." Only the soul that ventilates the world with tenderness has any chance of changing it. Go from here to be in the world who God is, compassionate, loving, kind. Systems change when people change, and people change when they are cherished. This is always going to be the place to go from. Come to the margins. Love will always find a way to make windows, and so will you. God bless you. And where are we? Where are we at? Whoa, 1733. Okay, and that is it. What a bevy. Haroom. Okay, so that was last night's thing, and tomorrow will be another day. So today is Saturday. Let's go out and make something happen, and I'm going to say and cut. Boom. Oops. And cut.